Digital transformation, living in a two-speed world, continuous delivery in the real world. So for me to talk about this to you today, I need to go back a bit in time. Not too far, just about 3.5 billion years. So about 3.5 billion years ago, that's when the first programs started running in our world. And as you know, you can look around you on the planet, those programs have been pretty successful. And humans have copied this. We realize that this whole program thing is pretty cool. You write this program, put it in a machine, and it'll take the boring work away from you. The only challenging thing about these programs is once we create them and we put them into the machines, well, that's it. They don't change themselves. So we have to change them the whole time. And nature, of course, found a way to deal with this. And what it came up with was the concept of a neuron. So about 600 million years ago, nature found a way to change behavior of organisms without having to update the program. New learned behavior. When these two combined about 600 million years ago, this led to what is known as the Cambrian explosion. A massive proliferation of life forms all around the planet. And again, what's happening is, in the world, humans, we are following the same approach again. Instead of writing programs, we are now using neurons, and we are training these neurons to adopt new behaviors. And we've had massive progress in the last 10 years. Computers can now hear what we say. They don't always understand what we say, but they can hear what we say. Computers can see, and they can describe what they are seeing. This is fascinating. About a week ago, or 2 weeks ago now, there's a company called Planet Labs, and they launched the last of their 150 satellites. So it was from the Indian rocket about 2 weeks ago. They launched another 100 quite small satellites, about that big. And they now update what is essentially Google Earth on a daily basis. So you can get an updated photo of the entire planet every single day at a 3 to 5 meter resolution. So that's interesting. And now we're going to connect these computers that can see and describe what they are seeing up to this data. So every single day you can get an update about what's happening in the rainforest, what's happening in these harbors, how many ships are where, across the entire planet, every single day. Not only that, these computers can read and they can collate what they see and understand and come to new conclusions. And they understand language much better than they used to. These machines are able to operate very complex machinery. So this is an incredible thing that's happening around us right now. And yes, we still have a long way to go. Our artificial brains are still quite stupid. But so what? Even though they might only have 160 billion synapses right now, they can do a lot. And if you remember this movie, I definitely do, Rain Man, a guy that was incredibly smart at one specific thing, but pretty daft at everything else. Idiot savants. We are firing up idiot savants at great speed around the planet. And these idiot savants are brilliant at one specific cognitive task and pretty stupid at everything else. So about a month and a half ago, Jeff Hinton, one of the sort of like leaders of the AI movement, said, "Can everyone please tell universities to stop training radiologists? It's a waste of time. We don't need any more radiologists." And what's odd about this is if you go to Wits or Joburg University, you can start your 5-year radiologist degree training certification right now. In 5 years' time, these people are convinced we will not need any more radiologists. So a massive change is coming our way. And the same that occurred in the Cambrian era, this is occurring really for humanity around the planet now. We're experiencing a cognitive explosion as we augment our brains to be able to tackle and solve more and more problems. So the same way that humanity has sensors, and all animals, connected to brains that control our motor functions and the machines around us, we are building this global, automated production, distribution, and service machine. That's what we're all doing. We're all building this global, integrated, automated production, distribution, and service machine. And that's what's happening around the planet, and it's what's happening in your organization right now. The odd thing about these new ways of doing things is, in the old days and today, when you've got a bug in the system, you can actually go and look in the code, and you can find the bug and you can fix it. With these new artificial brains, the only thing you see are millions and millions of numbers. There is no code. You don't understand how this thing is doing what it's doing. It's like a brain. A brain before it knows how to play chess, and a brain after it knows how to play chess. You don't really know what the difference is. It can play chess now. So the only thing we can do with these systems is monitor their behavior and make sure they haven't gone crazy. So this is a very interesting thing that's occurring now, is that we have to start monitoring the behavior of our artificial brains to make sure that they will do what our business wants them to do. So what does this mean for organizations? As we're becoming part of this global automated production, distribution, and service engine, we need to extract metrics from our automated businesses. And based upon these metrics, do evaluations about what we can improve. And then either write manual programs to improve the system, or give these artificial brains data so they can learn and change the way the organization behaves. And then we have to verify that this automated organization is still behaving the way that we want it to behave. And once we verify that, we can roll it out slowly into the real world to make sure that it's having the desired effect. So how good is your business at being able to do this? How good is your business at getting metrics from everything that's going on, updating its behavior via programs and using artificial brains, and then effectively rolling that behavior out? So what is happening with this in the real world? Obviously, Google is doing this. AI has sort of taken over many of their products, and some of their products are completely based upon AI, like translation, maps, and whatever else. So it's quite interesting. Quite a sizable portion of Google's revenue is now based upon systems which they don't really understand. They don't quite understand how their translation system works, but it works brilliantly. They've just built this brain. They've trained this translation brain, and it can do translations. But there's no logic. They can't go and update the program. There's no program. This thing just learned how to do it. So the only way that they know whether this translation thing is still doing what it's supposed to be doing is by monitoring and checking its behavior to make sure that it behaves in the way they want it to behave, that it's still translating properly. So yes, of course, Google uses this in software, but what about industrial world? What about cooling? What about getting fluid to go through pipes to get cooling? What about moving computation from one side of a data center to another side of a data center? Google now has an artificial brain in charge of cooling its data centers. And this artificial brain is better than all of its PhD engineers together. So it is in charge of figuring out which aircon is on and which one is off, where water is flowing and where it's not flowing, where computation occurs in these data centers. And again, it's interesting. They don't really know how this thing is making its decisions. They can't open it up and look at the logic. The only thing they can do is monitor its behavior. It's an interesting thing that's happening. As Carol Ann said, Amelia is entering the banking world. This is a Swedish bank launching their first digital employee. So you can now start interacting with Amelia and asking her what your balance is and so forth in Sweden. And they trialed this in the internal IT department first, and now they're rolling out to their real customers. Bank of America, they chose a different name, Erica. So they're building Erica right now for all of their customers, and you can soon chat to Erica and say, hey, Erica, how much money do I have left for the month, and do you think I can go on this trip? And she's going to say, gee, John, I'm not sure. Your budget's looking not so hot. Okay, so you're going to start having conversations about Erica with Erica, and I don't know. I don't know if my wife is going to be happy about me having conversations about our financial position with Erica. We'll have to see about that. In South Africa, we're starting to see this happening. Chatbots in some of the banks around South Africa. Definitely, we're seeing machine learning spreading quite fast in South Africa, from doing fraud detection to looking at the insurance industry, whether claims are approved or not, and projections of costing on claims and so forth. So this is definitely starting to happen in South Africa. And there's a couple of interesting projects on the go where organizations are now starting to extract their business transaction metrics, loading this into an artificial brain, and then starting to have this thing do anomaly detection so that they can proactively spot transactions that are behaving oddly in the organization. So this is being put together right now in some of the quite large organizations in South Africa. So this is definitely happening. The future is here. It's just not evenly distributed. Okay, so this is the question of how fast can your organization take advantage of all this technology. So what will you be? Will your organization invade the future, or will you be invaded by the future? I think that's the question we all face. So what is competitive advantage in this space? Competitive advantage is how good are you at using the brains of your people, and how good are you at using artificial brains? This is really the competitive landscape for the next 20 years. Human brains and artificial brains together doing brilliant things. This is the competitive landscape. So the same way that executives were absolutely obsessed by the order-to-cash value chain, they need to be obsessed by a new value chain. So the order-to-cash value chain it's repetitive stuff. We have the product, we have our logistics, the customer orders the product, and we have to make sure it happens the right way every single time. And most of the executives and organizations that I deal with, large parts of them are still obsessed about the order-to-cash value chain. The order-to-cash value chain is being automated at speed, though, especially in the financial services industry. And the value chain that executives absolutely need to focus on is the concept-to-cash value chain. Because that is where we're going to change our automated production, distribution, and service organizations, is the concept-to-cash value chain. How good are your executives in your organizations about understanding the economics of the concept-to-cash value chain? Let's look at this. This is the concept-to-cash performance review by the State of DevOps report by Puppet and Dora. So this is basically saying how good are various organizations at updating the behavior of their automated organizations. And some can update the behavior of their organization once per month or once every 6 months. So once every 6 months, they can update how their organization behaves. That's not great. From the point that they make a change to the point where this change goes live, it can also take them 1 to 6 months. So it takes these organizations long to update the behavior of their automated production, distribution, and service systems. Medium performers take a week to a month. The highest performers, they can update the behavior of their organizations every day, every couple of hours. They are updating the behavior of their organizations. So this is a massive competitive advantage. As we're automating, and interactions that your customer are having with your organization is about automation, your ability to change your organization's behavior is a key competitive advantage. So what do you need to focus on to be able to achieve this? There are 4 areas: management tools and techniques, organizational structure and processes, architecture and practices, and culture and mindset. So let us take you through these 4. So, management tools and techniques. Now I've spent the last, from 2007? So I spent the last 10 years working with organizations and teaching leadership and managers and teams about the concept-to-cash value chain and how you do it well. And there's still a long way to go. I'm amazed. Been doing it for 10 years, there are still thousands of people that haven't really gone into this. So, what is key is excellence in the face of constant uncertainty. Now, this is a big challenge. So next week, I'm meeting with another CFO in an organization. And I've been asked to meet with the CFO to explain to them how to manage risk in the concept-to-cash value chain. Because the CFO isn't really clear about how to do this. They're very nervous about managing risk in this kind of space. So what it requires is really, what is the kind of environment which can teach us about excellence in the face of constant uncertainty? It's the military. Okay? This is the most uncertain environment that humans can find themselves in. Humans trying to kill each other as quickly as possible. How do you lead an invading army into a foreign country where the enemy is unpredictable and you don't have all information? How good are your leadership at understanding this? Unity of command, command and control. Economy of force versus mass of force. How good are your leadership at understanding the trade-offs between acting and information? Okay, if you wait too much to gather more information, you will not be acting and the enemy will be upon you. So that trade-off is critical. And if we go into the history of military strategy and tactics, that is where we find an immense amount of leadership and guidance on how to do this. Expressed in another way, this is by a chap called Donald G. Reynoldson, The Principles of Product Development Flow. The principles, these are basically saying the same thing as military strategy and tactics. How good is your organization in the concept to cash value chain at actively managing queues, at exploiting variability, at being able to decentralize decision-making and control? So if I go to your organization today and find some of your leadership and executives and say, good day, how is it going with your concept to cash value chain? How good are you at being able to decentralize decision-making in your concept to cash value chain? And how good are you at putting the right feedback cycles into place to effectively execute command and control in the face of uncertainty? I wonder if they would know what I'm talking about. I wonder if they would be able to have a conversation with me about what they think is going on with that in their organization at this time. But this is critical, because these are the things that determine whether you will be excellent at the concept to cash value chain or not. Do they understand what waste is and how waste manifests itself in the concept to cash value chain? The same lean wastes apply. Transport, inventory, too much repeated motion within a process, overproduction, overprocessing. So transport, what has transport got to do with the concept to cash value chain? Well, how effective is your organization at transporting code? From dev to test to sit to UAT to live, how effective is your organization at transporting code? How effective is your organization at transporting ideas? So when you go from concept to cash, are you using parallel processing in your human brains in your organization to speed up the transport of information in the concept to cash value chain? How focused are your executives on increasing your ability to do that? Are they aware of what this is all about? So these are the kind of things that I'm constantly busy with, is teaching and training executives, team leaders, teams, what this is and how waste manifests itself in the concept to cash value chain. What I see a lot is that management are definitely involved in the management of production. How many features are we building and are we going to hit the release date? Improving your concept to cash value chain is not easy. It's very difficult. So your leadership, your executives, your team leads, your management need to move their time from just management of production over to leadership of problem solving. So if I walk again into your organization and say, in terms of your concept to cash value chain, show me please your backlog of what you're going to be doing to remove waste from that system. And what current problems are you solving to remove waste from that system? And this is critical. If you don't have a backlog, you've got a problem. Okay, because your managers are then focusing on production as opposed to focusing on the leadership of problem solving in improving the efficiency of the concept to cash value chain. What is needed in your organization is continuous improvement. So teams improving how they work every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks improving how they are working together. The stuff that they cannot solve bubbles up to leadership, and that becomes leadership's problem. And again, I've been in a number of organizations where we've got these backlogs, and leaders are rather preferring to put them under the carpet. You know, they don't want to talk about these things, because these things are problems. They are problems that need solving. As soon as you start going down this road, you have problems and problems and problems and problems that need solving. And in many organizations, what did Taiichi Ohno say? He didn't say, people are bringing me problems. People are bringing me gifts. Because now I understand what I need to do to improve the efficiency of my concept to cash value chain. So that's a job of leadership. But it's very difficult to expect leadership to do that if they don't have the mental models to understand waste in the concept to cash value chain. If you're an IT director or a CIO or IT manager, that's probably a problem that you're facing. That the folks that you are talking to about needing investment for improving the concept to cash value chain maybe haven't gone through this experience of learning about what the concept to cash value chain is all about and how waste manifests itself in the concept to cash value chain. So that's your first step. You have to get that right. And in South African organizations, in terms of the whole sort of two-speed world, the digitization and digitalization, what I started seeing a couple of years ago was sort of like a digital source. You must launch an app, have a website, all this kind of stuff. Some organizations are getting better now. They got this thick layer of icing on top of their cakes already. So it's looking a lot better. But the real work is starting now, is turning all the major business processes into the organization into a digital process, into straight-through processing. That's where the major work is starting now. And that's where the real obstacles lie. And we'll talk a bit more to you about those obstacles.